young man that you would say, putting this other life aside, if he were in your class, you'd say he should be on a track for learning a trade, because he has some skills, and he has enormous skills. And as a matter of fact, as we find out, if he put those skills that he has to work from an educational standpoint, he'd be quite brilliant.
Well, actually, it's true, because remember his favorite thing was making that box in shop class? So I feel like that's true as well.
And it becomes, you could say, somewhat unfortunate, but if those of you who know the series know that Jesse does survive, that this is the route he takes to achieve some kind of fame and quite a bit of fortune. You also note that during the course of the series, Jesse has quite a big heart. I'm thinking particularly of those of you who know the series, when he happens upon a young boy in the house with very irresponsible parents, and he sort of takes the boy under his wing there, wants to make sure the boy is taken care of. Not your typical drug dealer kind of behavior, I would think.
Right. And, Walt is Walt sort of goes in with this as far as having nothing to lose, because he's already got cancer. He's not going to survive the cancer. But Jesse still has his whole life ahead of him. So when Walter starts to really kind of go into Heisenberg mode, he starts pulling back and saying, I really can't morally go to the places you're going. And especially with the kid who was collecting spiders, putting him into a vat of hydrofluoric acid was really troubling for Jesse.
Now, a lot of us have mixed feelings about Walter's behavior, because we wouldn't go to where Walter's going. We understand what he's doing is not the right way to go morally. However, again, I think many people admire that the 90-pound weakling being turned into a mastermind, and I don't want to get into the killer instinct, but turning into a mastermind and a badass, quite frankly.
Yes, this is the say my name, Walter.
Exactly, and that's to go over that. We got to squeeze that line in somewhere in this video.
Yes, okay.
Which actually, it's not just us. This is a line that everybody quotes. As a matter of fact, Vince Gilligan mentioned this in one of his exchanges on the show. They know what that line was worth when Walter's wife says to him, starting getting scared, do I have to worry about somebody knocking on the door at night? And Walter responds, I'm the one who knocks. The worm has turned.
Yes.
The worm has turned big time.
Yeah. And was it that same episode where he actually invites Jesse to his house for dinner?
May have been. I'm not...
because that was also like a real turning point, because up until that point he was trying to separate his meth life and his home life. But at that point he was just like, I don't care, I'm going to do it. If I want Jesse in my house, I'm going to keep Jesse in my house. Screw you.
The one thing you can wonder about, though, with Walter is clearly this person was in there somewhere in him, and could have been brought out any other way, meaning the other kind of personality, the one that doesn't get stepped on, the one that steps on. Did it have to come through this channel? Was there any other route that he could have taken to become more assertive? Because it's something that he becomes a person you really get to admire in terms of his assertiveness, and through, again, illegal channels and morally questionable channels in terms of his business that he's involved in. And did he have to be that 90-pound weakling from the beginning?
I think he did, because remember
for the show he had to be, but did you?
Well, but remember when he went to see his, I don't know, colleagues, coworkers, ex-girlfriend from Grey Matter? Remember how they screwed him over and he just took it and left? and didn't get any money. I feel like that could have been a moment in his life when Heisenberg could have come out also, but it didn't. He just sort of left and met his wife and started teaching and worked in the car wash.
So the lesson, folks, is be careful with that milk toast that you pickle in.
It's true. It's true. Or be careful of the person working in, in a fast food restaurant, like Gus. Or be careful of the C student, like Jesse. Or be careful of the grandpa watching his granddaughter in the park, like Mike.
Well, Jesse would be the most, in some fashion, mostly, because he'd be the one that you would think would fade into the person you'd forget about. If he was in your class, and we're both teachers, this is the kind of student you wouldn't remember his name a year later, probably, barring all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You wouldn't remember, you were in my class? I don't remember you at all. He's the one that sort of just, again, that's that born C kind of student that has no, and you figure, he'll end up working in some kind of manual labor kind of job.
I don't know, like maybe if Walt hadn't caught him on that drug bust that he went with his brother-in-law, I feel like Jesse probably would have been sort of a low-level meth cooker and just sort of,
But again, something...
Maybe gone to prison,
He wouldn't have found himself.
No, he definitely
clearly found himself here. Again...
He found more than himself.
Again, the interesting thing is again, because you have to bring up the fact of the business they're involved in, okay? Questionable business that he's involved in, and he finds himself as the talent. A talented person, a compassionate person, which we see again when going back to that incident I was talking about with the kid. He's
and the other kid.
Yeah, so the other
Brock.
thing, right? So the other thing about his character is, again from a teaching standpoint, you see, I'm going to contradict myself to a certain degree now, because sometimes these people, there's something there that you don't have the time or the inclination to be looking for. You being in the front of the room, for example, as a teacher, there's this. He's going to be this. He's going to just float through life as a.
But there was a teacher who caught him. Remember the shop teacher?
Yeah.
And he kept making those boxes, thinking that, because the teacher kept saying, "You could do better than this," and he says, "I could do better than this."
Yeah.
And he had that moment sort of with Walt when he sees Walt cooking and he's like, "Oh my God, this is glass grade," and then he just wants to do that also. He just wants to be able to achieve that kind of quality.
Yeah, but there's also that thing that you say that you spend. It's like you see somebody doing some criminal activity and they're spending all their time devising all these things that you couldn't even possibly think of, to whether it to be to rob a bank, to do this, to do that, something unsavory. And you say if they just channel their into something positive, they could be something very positive.
Well, you know who's also sort of like that? Gus Fring's lab assistant. What was his name?
Oh.
I can't think of his name. You know who I'm talking about.
A name, I remember that name was...
I know, I can't think of it. But he was sort of that milquetoast kind of granola.
Wait, that wasn't Gail.
That is Gail.
Gail.
And he was
Gail Bedecker, and by the way, I remember the name. You wouldn't think of remembering that name, because I'm sure it was a reference to the film director Bud Bedecker, who was a...
Who's that?
Bud Bedecker was the auteur. People follow the auteur theory of film criticism know Bud Bedecker as a very effective director of westerns. Randolph Scott, he directed several Randolph Scott westerns, quite acclaimed ones, and he had a nice little career, and it's spelled the same way, so I'm guessing there's some kind of reference there to Bud Bedecker, the director. Yeah.
Okay. So on that tangent, sort of, Gail was also, you think about, he's sort of this granola kind of,
Yeah.
mild-mannered guy,
Yeah.
but here he is, like, cooking meth,
Yes.
Yeah. And his statement, like, well, if I'm not going to do it, who else is going to do it?
He better gruesome man.
From Jesse, no less. But Jesse was also really upset about that too. Like it was a kid, it was Gail, it was Brock, it was this spider boy.
The one thing you could think of as something people could take issue with, I guess, people who have issues with the show, is that since when do these people have consciences? Meaning, we're talking, because somebody from the other end would say, this is a drug deal, they don't give a whatever about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Start telling me they have consciences, they care about this or that. Again, this would be somebody taking the other argument, you play devil's advocate.
Yeah, but when you think about that, most people who are watching the show also need a point of entry, like a moral point of entry, and I think Jesse
Well, that's
was
why
that.
you have to have that to empathize with a character.
Yeah.
But
otherwise, you're going to be like Todd.
But the reality of it is,
Mm-hmm.
people will say, since when do these people give a whatever about anything?
True.
Yeah. We still on or what?
Yeah, we've been on. So I want to talk about the blue meth. So I got some blue raspberry rock candy. Supposedly it's very delicious. It smells really good. It smells like blue raspberry. But I wanted to talk about the blue meth because Mr. Jelly and I were talking about Todd. And there was that fundamental moment where Todd is trying to break off on his own and make the meth. And then the woman, the reseller,
Mm-hmm.
she says, "Why isn't it blue?" So I know that's like one of Mr. Jelly's big things about brand management. So I want to see if he would talk about that for a little
It
bit.
better look exactly like it's supposed to look is basically the theme here. If it's the slightest touch off, and first of all, when you're dealing with a business like this, you're going to really pay for it dearly, probably with your life. But in anything, okay, if the thing is supposed to be navy blue, it better be a real navy blue. It better look like the navy blue it's supposed to look like. All it has to be is a touch of, because the most that's the most noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
Using the stuff, I have no idea, because this is obviously something I don't do.
Really, you don't smoke meth?
No, I've never indulged. So that's the next step, is the stuff effective, the stuff work, but it better look right. If it doesn't look right, something just the slightest thing off, the slightest tint off, and that you got to get right, which is what we always say, you got to,
Like the Crystal Pepsi stuff.
Crystal Pepsi stuff, and again, which somewhat ties into, there's nothing more expensive than going cheap, okay? Where it better look exactly like it's supposed to look, because you can't tell somebody, well, it's the same, it just looks a little different. That's something you absolutely cannot, it better look the same.
Mm-hmm. Also, well, in that moment, so remember, Todd was having a lot of trouble getting the meth to the purity that Jesse and Walter got. I think he was only at like 70%.
Mm-hmm.
And that last cook he did was 76%, but the meth was white or something. It was like green, not green, it's something pale.
This goes to the old that Oscar thing with Chris Rock, and
what Oscar thing?
when Chris Rock was hosting the Oscars, and apparently he offended Sean Penn, who has no sense of humor, apparently, and he mentioned who's that? Jude Law, and he mentioned some flop movie Jude Law was in, and Chris Rock's point was, which I've always agreed with, basically, is that if you want your sure thing, you got to spend a little more money. Jude Law is not a movie star. At this point, Tom Cruise was still a big star. You spend the extra $10 million, and you get Tom Cruise. You don't use Jude Law for $10 million less. because you're going to pay for it in the end.
Right. So instead of Todd's cook, you use Walter's cook.
Exactly.
Jesse's cook.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, that was well, we connected with that right away when we see that,
Yeah.
because we talk about that kind of stuff all the time. About something, it better look the way it's supposed to look, whatever it is.
And that was funny because it was sort of like it was a flyaway moment, but it just showed you about the continuity, like how good the writing was.
Yeah.
You know, that even in that one moment, you were completely like immersed in like that one detail of how things were going wrong.
Oh well, the detail of the writing. If we're going to talk about that for a moment of the show, it's just exquisite stuff. However, it will have people that are reluctant to watch because it's a little too strong in terms of subject matter, whatever. People don't want to see. They'll say it's glorifying drug dealing. It's doing this. It's doing that. I don't think it was doing that.
I don't think so.
But that's going back to what you said before about Jesse. That's where you have to have some moral fiber, I guess, to keep those people in tune. That this is not some animal, on the street peddling poison or whatever. Even he might be, but there's a human factor involved too. He's a human being. Mm-hmm. Some people don't want to hear that anyway. But that goes to, again, the detail of the multifaceted, the characters. They're fully drawn. And that's the writing, and that's the acting as well, mm-hmm. Certainly. Yeah.
Well, the interesting part about, like, Walter, or Heisenberg, is that, like, in the beginning, he's sort of, like, painted into a corner. He doesn't have a lot of money. He has cancer. He's got a new baby. And he's got a son who's disabled. How is he going to provide for these people when he's gone? And he's thinking he could go basically at any time. So you paint him into this corner and he basically comes out fighting. Or in this case, you paint him into the corner and he blows up the corner.
Interesting, though, also that the actor, Bryan Cranston, prior to that, was in a sitcom.
Yeah.
Playing, I guess, a mild-mannered, I don't know, I never saw the show, a mild-mannered father or whatever.
Yeah, or like a funny kind of dad.
Okay,
yeah.
And again, probably not somebody you would think for Walter White.
Yeah.
For the Transformer one, like Heisenberg.
Well, he begged for that role, but it worked out.
Oh, it worked out brilliantly. However, again, that's the same, there's a transformation there too. You say, you're never picking this guy this guy's not that guy. This
true.
Guy's not that guy.
But it just, in terms of casting, it just shows that Vince Gilligan saw something beyond what he had given before.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that about Aaron Paul, too. Before this, he played LDS, which is one of these Mormons. He played a nerdy Mormon on Big Love, so you would never have thought that he would be able to do Jesse at all either.
No.
Well, I don't know anything about Giancarlo
Esposito was a theater actor. He was in some Spike Lee movies. Do the Right Thing, particularly, he had a fairly prominent role. And he's always been a very fine actor. So that's you hire somebody like that, that's the person. Him you're sure about, let's put it that way, before you're hiring him. Those didn't know, I'm assuming they knew him, his work. Somebody like that, you could put him in that role, and he'll find a way to handle it. But again, the discoveries here are these two, I guess. Plus the other, the brother-in-law.
Yeah. But was he in any, I don't know.
I don't know what they were in, but the fact is they found people that are, on the regular track or whatever.
And the actor who played Walt's son, who is disabled but not disabled the same way.
Right.
So that was really good casting too.
Well, again, when you have a show like this, which takes off like that, and is acclaimed like that, obviously that's the whole part of the package is the casting, and I'm pretty sure it's not Vince Gilligan, they're probably the casting agent, whoever. Same thing we found for The Wire and shows like this.
Yeah.
They get it right.
Mm-hmm. Also, Jane, the actress who played Jane, who's now in Jessica Jones, Before she was sort of only playing like, funny best friend kind of roles or like quirky sort of girls. But she played a really dark character with that, recovering heroin addict who sort of pulls Jesse down into, a drug spiral.
Yeah. Yeah, well, again, what makes these shows that impressive, again, the acting from top to bottom. I don't remember the guy in the wheelchair, the one with the explosives.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I know. I don't know the actor's name. But anyway, he was great too.
Yeah. Again, they don't make mistakes. When they get it right, they really don't make mistakes. They're working on all cylinders, basically.
Or the twins.
Yeah.
The scary twins.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who are real gangbangers.
Because the one thing we were saying is that he's going to be now. Bryan Cranston obviously has moved on in his career, and he's had success since. But he will forever be known for this character.
Yeah.
Now that's not a bad thing. I mean, unfortunately, James Gandolfini passed away young. He would have been known as Tony Soprano forever.
True, but he was getting work too.
He was getting other work. Carol O'Connor was certainly going to be Archie Bunker for the rest of his life.
But he worked too.
He always worked before and after. And even, I got to tell you, he's looking at movie stardom and all that. I think Idris Elba is always going to be string a bell.
Yes, I know. He does a lot of voice work too now.
He does a lot. He's going to be a movie star eventually. He's getting more. He's getting a lot of work and all that. But him, they're trying to make a star. Bryan Cranston, again, he's. It's a matter of the choices you make, because you get more choices. Obviously, now you get more scripts. You're the first one that gets the script now, instead of the 10th one after 9 people have turned it down. Once you have some kind of fame, and he got his Oscar nomination after that for Trumbo. The movie's in now. It's supposed to be very good, but he will forever be known as Walter White. We could attest that when we went to see him on Broadway. And people online were saying he could have come out in his Walter White costume, just stood there.
Yeah,
and
or
they would have been happy.
His underwear, and they would have been happy, because Walter White was also constantly in his underwear.
And everybody came to see Walter White. When you come to see Bryan Cranston or LBJ, they came to see Walter White.
Or Heisenberg.
Or Heisenberg, yeah. So.
All right, so I'm going to say thank you to Mr. Jelly for coming on to our channel.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, bye, guys.
Don't forget to subscribe to Jolly Jelly Toys.